Welcome to Panda Tale. I hope you have a great time listening to the story. If you enjoy it, don't forget to give me a like, leave a comment, and subscribe. Today I'd like to introduce you to an ancient comedy romance story where the female lead is adorable. I laughed while reading it, and editing it made me laugh even more. Please like and comment to help me avoid flopping in the future. Thank you so much. Synopsis: I am the most famously useless princess in all of Ashford Kingdom. I can't do literature, I'm hopeless at martial arts. Besides having somewhat decent looks, there's nothing worth mentioning about me. That's why my father, who always claims to be an enlightened ruler, didn't hesitate for Kin to wave his hand and dismiss me. Once, he offered me to the Thorn Empire. I heard that the Emperor of Thorn has an unpredictable, bizarre temperament and takes pleasure in killing beautiful women. His once fragrant and colorful harem is now as empty and desolate as a temple. Damien lazily waved his fan made from the bones of beautiful women, leisurely tilting his head to glance at me. His finger gently glided over the top of my head, his smile that wasn't quite as smiasking, scared. If you're scared, it's not too late to turn back to Ashford now. My hand gripped his sleeve tightly, trembling slightly. Hearing this, I still shook my head decisively. I won't go back. His hand resting on my head suddenly pressed down a bit harder. Why? His eyes narrowed, cold and sharp. I looked up directly at him, enunciating each word clearly. Too lazy to run that far. Damien was silent for a long while, the corner of his mouth twitching slightly. Running from Thorn back to Ashford would indeed be quite tiring. Heavens! Please enjoy the story. My name is Elena, the famously useless princess of Ashford Kingdom. I don't follow my father's teachings. He insists on calling it Great Ashford. Ashford is actually just a small country nestled on the edge of the Thorn Empire, our vassal status long established. But my father says since our country is small, our name must be grander, calling it Great Ashford, as if we could stand shoulder to shoulder with Thorn. How laughable. When has Thorn ever taken notice? Still, father worries daily, fearing that the mighty Thorn Empire might one day decide on a whim to swallow Ashford into their map. After all, 3 other countries with larger territories than ours have already been devoured, now just counties under their rule. Our entire Ashford military is weak, provisions insufficient, let alone fighting back, even defense is a struggle on all fronts. After much deliberation, my self-proclaimed enlightened father slapped his forehead and said among the 36 stratagems, nothing beats trying the beauty trap, so he decisively offered me to Damien's bed, entrusting me with a grand mission, not expecting me to achieve great merit for country and people. Just to stop Damien's steps toward annexing Ashford would be enough. Before my marriage, I heard rumors about the Emperor of Thorn. People say that Emperor is frugal, maintains propriety, governs excellently, making the nation prosper like never before. The only pity is his eccentric temperament and fondness for killing beautiful women. No matter whose daughter enters the palace, in the end none escape the fate of a golden grave mound. Therefore, everywhere people discuss, fearing he won't have an heir and wondering what will become of Thorn afterward. All along the journey, I heard every rumor about him, and with the long, exhausting distance making me dizzy, I soon drowsily wanted to sleep. While nodding off, I was gently reminded by the attending Mama Princess, "You're about to meet His Majesty. Please wake up a bit." I nodded perfunctorily, sitting up straight, but my eyes still couldn't open. Not until Damien's hand touched my face cold slowly, bit by bit stroking across my skin like dawn mist lightly brushing dry branches. I immediately opened my eyes wide, meeting his deep gaze. Stunned for a moment, I forgot to perform the greeting ceremony, only dazedly calling out, "Your Majesty?" he asked, very sleepy. His voice was cold and clear yet distant, like night wind blowing through dry paulownia branches. He wore a black robe embroidered with winding golden dragons. His whole person seemed covered in a thin layer of frost, not touched by any worldly dust. Just looking, one could understand why he didn't approach feminine charms. I shook my head. Better now. Though his hand was very cold, his fingers slowly slid down, circling behind to my neck, finally stopping at my nape. I felt that with just a little force, he could take my life at any moment. But his expression didn't seem to have that intention, so I just let him gently squeeze my nape. The pressure neither strong nor light, the feeling actually wasn't bad. After a long while, he maintained his indifferent demeanor, asking casually, "Not afraid of me?" I was so comfortable from his message I wanted to sleep, my eyes half closed as I answered carelessly, "Not afraid." The corner of his mouth curved into a faint smile. "If I said I want to kill you, then what?" I nodded, answering decisively, "Then your majesty can go ahead. I've never had any remarkable abilities, only an open-minded heart. No matter how tangled things are, I just need to think for a moment and can naturally let go. Besides, from the day I was sent here, I already understood clearly that I wouldn't live long. So hearing him say this, I wasn't surprised at all." Damien looked at me for a long while, finally laughing. "You're not worth me doing it myself." I pondered for a moment, then extended my hand before him, blinking lightly. "Then is your majesty planning to have someone strangle me?" Damien fell silent for a beat, finally waving his hand dismissively. He let go of my nape, bent down to untie my belt, his voice casual. "Since Ashford has such intentions, I shouldn't disappoint you." His fingers were cold to the point of numbness. I couldn't help but shiver all over. Goosebumps. Seeing this, he laughed and asked, "Scared now?" I truly didn't understand why he insisted on deliberately frightening people like this. As for what would happen next, though I'd never experienced it, I'd read quite a few books about it. For me at this moment, there was only one thing to worry about. "Your Majesty. I'm really lazy about exercising." Perhaps Damien didn't want to exercise either. He was just quiet for a moment, then shifted to the side, his arm encircling my waist, voice bland sleep. His manner peaceful as if the person who just teased me wasn't him at all. I thought for a while, gently pulling the blanket to cover myself, then tilted my head to look at him and conveniently covered him with the blanket too. After doing these things, I finally closed my eyes to sleep. Damien's hands were very cold, but his body was warm. In the cool early spring weather, I hadn't slept long before unconsciously rolling into his embrace. In my dream, I felt like I was hugging a large, wonderfully warm furnace. When I woke up, the space beside me was empty. The attending palace maid told me Damien had conferred upon me the title of noble consort. She seemed even happier than I was. "My lady, you're the first noble consort of this dynasty." I was a bit dazed, casually asking, "What about those who entered the palace before me?" The palace maid paused, then laughed it off. "They weren't granted any titles. My lady shouldn't think too much about it." I nodded. "Ah, I understand. They probably didn't live long enough to receive titles before becoming people of the past." Thinking this way, I felt being conferred as noble consort before death at least didn't fail Ashford's intentions. Though I wondered when Damien planned to make his move. He was busy. After that night of holding me to sleep once, he didn't set foot in the harem for half a month. If it were my father not attending court for half a month, it wouldn't be strange at all. People in the palace were all used to reading expressions to survive. At first, seeing that I seemed to be favored, they scrambled to flatter me with a few words. But before long, discovering I only had that much ability, their attitudes gradually cooled. After 3 days of food tasting like wax, I thought for a while and then sent 2 palace servants, who still listened to me, to the empty plot before the hall to plow and till the land. Speaking more about Thorne's harem, desolate, most palaces abandoned like cold palaces, weeds growing everywhere, such a pity to see all that good land. I took the bag of seeds I'd brought from Ashford, told them to sow them, then ordered daily watering, fertilizing, and weeding, everything done properly. Sophie, my closest palace maid, stood beside me curiously asking, "My lady, His Majesty hasn't visited for so long. Why are you still so happy?" I carefully watched the small vegetable garden I'd just planted, licking my lips and slowly answering. Having people help me grow vegetables. Why wouldn't I be happy about such good news? Back in Ashford, I wasn't favored either. Daily meals were bland with nothing delicious. People in the palace and father all calculated and compared, not much better than here, maybe even worse. Back then I only knew to grow my own vegetables, sow seeds, work the poor soil with great difficulty, truly not easy at all. Now having people do it for me, not needing to dirty my hands with heavy work, compared to before, this is already great fortune. When Damien finally remembered me, I was squatting in the middle of the small plot, happily caressing the sprouts just emerging from the soil. Sophie hurriedly ran over, voice urgent, "My lady, His Majesty is here." Before she finished speaking, a pair of boots trimmed with gold thread had already stopped beside the vegetable sprouts before me. I looked up to see Damien standing there, backlit so I couldn't see his expression clearly, only heard him ask, "I heard you want to raise chickens." That was indeed true. Recently the savory dishes from the Imperial kitchen didn't suit my taste, so I thought why not raise a few chickens myself for eggs. Conveniently, there was an empty plot behind the hall perfect for a chicken coop. As for why I know how to raise chickens, nothing special really, all forced by circumstances. I briefly explained my farming plans to Damien. But the more I spoke, the colder his expression became, to the point where the surrounding palace servants fearfully all knelt to the ground. He spoke, voice bland but colder than usual. "Why didn't you come tell me?" I looked at him, blinking. "Haven't you been busy with court affairs lately?" After thinking, I added, "Besides, it's just a small matter. When I was in Ashford, even if father knew I did these things, he never paid attention. After all, he has 8 daughters total. Having one who grows vegetables and raises chickens isn't worth mentioning." "Small matter?" Damien snorted coldly. "Has Great Thorn become so poor that even a noble consort like you must personally grow vegetables and raise chickens?" Finishing, he turned to instruct the eunuch beside him. "The Imperial kitchen is incompetent. Tell them to go receive their punishment." Damien's gaze swept across my face, looking carefully for a moment, then suddenly called the young eunuch back, tilting his head to ask, "You look like you want to say something." Planning to plead for them. I didn't expect he'd been observing me all along. I paused briefly, then shook my head. "I'm just curious what punishment your majesty plans to give." As soon as the words left my mouth, the surrounding atmosphere seemed to freeze. All eyes focused on me, waiting for me to speak. I hesitated slightly, then said, "How about sending them here to help me grow vegetables and raise chickens? This palace really is short-handed these days." Damien said nothing, just silently looked at me. After this incident, Sophie exhaled in relief as if having escaped disaster, lowering her voice to tell me about similar past events. Damien had asked other beauties how they wanted to punish servants. Those who begged for mercy, none survived. Those who ordered punishments were forced to watch the torture carried out before their eyes, frightening them out of their wits. As Sophie recounted this, her face turned pale, hands trembling nonstop, clearly the fear still lingered. Meanwhile, I looked at the Imperial kitchen eunuch struggling to scatter grain for the chickens, frowning slightly. This Thorn Emperor seemed quite abnormal, but these matters didn't affect my farming plans. Spring is the season when all things flourish. In the blink of an eye, a month passed. The plot of bok choy was lush green, tender leaves stretching out looking very promising. I stared at the vegetable rows, rubbing my hands in delight. Thorn's climate really was much better than back home. Sophie stood beside me, unable to hold back. "My lady, the Imperial kitchen chefs make everything so refined and compete to please you. Why do you still tend to this garden?" I didn't look up, just answering. "If I don't tend to this, what else would I tend to?" She paused, then glanced at me sideways, voice dissatisfied. "Of course our Ningwa Palace. His Majesty hasn't set foot here for a whole month. The rumors outside are going wild." I laughed lightly, pulling weeds by my feet, calmly saying, "Let them say whatever they want. His Majesty is busy with state affairs. I have nothing to do, so I shouldn't disturb him." After finishing, I suddenly looked up toward the chicken coop. "Did you hear that? Sounds like a hen cackling. Probably just laid an egg." I grabbed Sophie's sleeve, pulling her to run toward the chicken nest. Come on, what are you standing there for?" Arriving there, I didn't hesitate, quickly urging her to bend down and search the nest. Finally found 2 still, warm chicken eggs. For things that others could do, I naturally wouldn't do myself. The old mother hen behind us clung on relentlessly, chasing while clucking wildly. Sophie, usually prone to muttering, couldn't help laughing now, running in circles while scolding. "What's wrong with you? Just 2 eggs and you're being so calculating." The old hen clucked and cackled. I hugged the evidence tightly to my chest, calmly answering, "What else?" Sophie realized she'd been drawn into my trap, huffed and ran closer, raising her voice. "My lady." I glanced at her, waving my hand. All right, I know what you mean." Then putting on a mysterious air. "Today I'll personally go to the kitchen. Later bring it to the Imperial study. That's all. Fighting for favor, what's strange about that? Even if I've never raised pigs, I've eaten pork. Besides, I've seen pigs running around the yard all the time. My father has dozens of consorts. From childhood to adulthood I've seen favor fighting so often I'm used to it." I'm just too lazy to participate. Originally Damien saw me as a display item in the palace. He minded his business. I grew vegetables and raised chickens. River water not violating well water, that was already good. Unfortunately, outside rumors grew day by day, everyone saying I was a fox spirit bewitching the emperor, monopolizing the harem single-handedly. Truly absurd. I heard many ministers had memorialized requesting Damien quickly take more consorts. Absolutely cannot let a demoness from a vassal state bewitch and disrupt the court. Also heard recently throughout Thorn, rebellions were erupting everywhere. Keeping Damien busy without rest, struggling to manage. Thinking it over, living in someone else's house, eating their rice, even growing vegetables on their land, by now I should show some consideration. So I personally went to the kitchen to make a dish with full color, fragrance and flavor. That dish was chicken egg soup. Mainly because my bok choy hadn't grown big enough yet, otherwise I surely could have made a plate of fried vegetables with eggs to complete the set. Sophie stood to the side looking on with resignation, finally unable to hold back, whispering advice, "My lady, this isn't very appropriate. At least you should make some kind of snack." I tilted my head, answering matter-of-factly, "I don't know how to make those." Then sighed, "Why don't you teach me? With these 2 eggs, what kind of snack can we make?" Sophie sighed. In the end, she couldn't bear to watch me deliver food like this. She snuck into the kitchen to find 2 more plates of peach blossom cakes, stuffing them into the food box, whispering instructions. "My lady, when you get there, just say you made the peach blossom cakes." I nodded perfunctorily. Got it, got it. But when bringing the food to the imperial study, Damien took one look at me and I honestly declared the egg soup was made by me, while the peach blossom cakes were prepared by the kitchen. Sophie stood attending beside us, pursing her lips to hold back laughter, probably thinking I didn't see. Damien didn't smile. He propped one hand on his chin, raising an eyebrow to look at me. "Why cook the egg soup yourself?" I paused briefly, then answered. "Well, because my old hen just happened to lay 2 eggs. That hen was originally sent by him. Now that it's laying eggs, cooking them for him to eat seems only right." But Damien's expression showed no interest. His gaze rested on the soup bowl in silence. I looked at the 2 plates of peach blossom cakes beside it, suddenly getting an idea, quickly speaking up. "If your majesty doesn't like egg soup, then have these peach blossom cakes instead. You've been working so hard lately, you need proper nourishment." Damien lowered his hand, his index finger lightly tapping the table surface in a slow rhythm. "If you want to nourish me, how can snacks compare to egg soup?" I was stunned. There was such logic. While I was still pondering whether this made sense, Damien had already drunk the entire bowl of egg soup. He put down the spoon, leisurely commenting, "Not bad cooking. I'll promote you to Empress." "Thank you for your majesty's praise." Wait. Before I could react, he had already casually pointed to the plate of peach blossom cakes beside him. "I'm full. You eat these snacks." So I obediently sat down beside him, quietly eating the entire plate of cakes. Honestly, the kitchen's skill wasn't bad. Damien didn't speak, just silently watched me eat, his gaze seeming both there and not there. When I picked up the last piece of cake, I hesitated slightly and glanced at him. "Your Majesty want to try?" He shook his head. "No, I don't like sweets." "Oh." I relaxed and put the cake in my mouth. Before I could finish chewing, I heard him ask, "Sweet?" Before the last word fully emerged, he had already leaned over, his fingers pinching my chin, lowering his head to breathe down. His warm breath entwined with my lips, bringing the mixed sweetness of peach blossom cakes and egg soup. After a moment, he released me, eyes bright as stars, lips slightly curved. Indeed very sweet. I stared at him dumbfounded, feelings too complex to describe. "Your Majesty, don't you find it dirty? Egg soup mixed with peach blossom cakes, honestly, I don't want to taste it a second time in my life." Damien fell silent. Looking at Damien's perspective, Alina had just finished eating peach blossom cakes, her lips red and plump, looking soft as hibiscus in morning mist. Kissing them would surely taste wonderful. That day Damien told me to return. His expression was somewhat strange. Not long after, an imperial edict came down promoting me to Empress. Sophie looked at me in horror as if seeing a ghost. "My lady, did you secretly drug the egg soup?" I received the imperial edict like holding a hot potato. Hearing her say this, I couldn't help rolling my eyes dismissively. "What nonsense are you spouting? The chicken eggs were dug out from the nest by your own hands. You stood beside me watching the entire cooking process, and you still don't know if it's authentic. Authentic ingredients, authentic method, authentic flavor, a bowl of egg soup so simple it couldn't be purer. As for why Damien suddenly had the whim to make me empress, we must mention the minister who memorialized asking the emperor to take more consorts. At first, beauties sent in died one after another, so the officials were all scared silent, no one daring to speak up anymore. But now it's different. I'm a princess from a vassal state, not valued by anyone. Yet I could stay safely in Thorn for so long. Those people's minds began stirring again. That day when I brought the bowl of egg soup over happened to be right after that loyal minister had just finished his memorial. The content was that the rebellions had been quelled, and small countries that were once annexed now wanted to send princesses for marriage alliances. Perhaps Damien, having finished dealing with state affairs and feeling bored, casually agreed. Then I personally appeared before him, reminding him that there was still someone in this harem. I guess he was afraid of the hassle, not wanting to hear ministers droning on all day about who deserves to be mother of the nation, so he decisively issued an edict making me empress. After all, I was once called the most favored in the harem. Now being promoted to empress, all things considered, wasn't unreasonable. But when I looked at the two new arrivals with heavy makeup standing before me, I suddenly felt a headache coming on. I just wanted to peacefully grow vegetables and raise chickens. Who asked me to come manage the harem? But Damien used my vegetable plot and chicken nest as leverage to threaten me. So today I could only grit my teeth and reluctantly play the role of a virtuous and graceful empress. By evening I was exhausted like a cripple, having Sophie massage my shoulders while complaining. Why do you and Thorn make the empress's accessories so heavy? The empress's accessories in Ashford are much lighter. One could only say this was indeed the bearing of a powerful nation, even the weight commands respect. Sophie was delighted, smiling until the corners of her mouth curved. My lady, only this befits the empress's status. From now on, even if anyone wants to fight for favor, they cannot shake your position. She lowered her voice mysteriously. This morning I saw Consort Liang's complexion wasn't very good, probably not easy to deal with. And Consort Shu, though she speaks little, that type is more dangerous. Dogs that bite don't bark. Looking at this young girl so obsessed with palace intrigue dramas, just listening gave me a headache. I had to interrupt. Have you fed the chickens tonight? Sophie was stunned, quickly answering. Yes, I'll go right away. Finally getting some peace and quiet. I was drowsily about to sleep when Damien arrived. He said nothing, just silently wrapped his arms around my waist and quietly lay down. Before sleeping, he pressed his face to my neck and sniffed lightly, then asked, "Him?" I drowsily answered, "No, I've never used fragrance. Probably picked up some scent from meeting the two sisters this morning." This morning I did smell a subtle fragrance emanating from Consort Shu. I heard it was a secret recipe passed down in her family. Damien seemed displeased, pulling me up, voice bland as plain water. I already bathed. I yawned, feeling this person was strange today. He glanced at me, expression unchanged. Go wash your hair clean. His tone was casual but brooked no refusal. Otherwise I don't mind taking you to bath together. No matter how sleepy, I didn't dare test my luck with him. I had to drag myself out to reluctantly wash my hair. Hair not even dry yet, I already wanted to collapse on the bed. But Damien, who had monitored me throughout, held me firmly, calling in a low voice. Come here. At times like this when I'm sleepy, I couldn't care about anything else. Even if the sky fell, it couldn't stop me from sleeping. He leaned against the headboard, eyes deep as the ocean. I pondered, finally decisively crawling into his embrace, propping my chin on his chest and closing my eyes. While half asleep, I seemed to hear him sigh, then instructed someone to bring a towel to dry my hair. But what did that have to do with me? I only knew to hug this furnace and sleep peacefully. The next morning when I woke up, Sophie told me Damien had exempted me from daily morning greetings, and specifically instructed Consort Shu that if there was nothing important, don't set foot in my palace. I originally didn't want to wake up early just to hear a few perfunctory morning greetings. Hearing this news truly lightened my whole being. But Consort Shu wasn't happy, repeatedly sending invitations for me to visit her palace. She said if she wasn't allowed to come to Ninghua Palace, she hoped I could sit for a while at Tingyu Pavilion. I didn't plan to go, but Sophie kept buzzing in my ear endlessly. My lady, this is a good opportunity to show your authority. My head hurt too much, so I had to personally bring a plate of peach blossom cakes and reluctantly go over. Consort Shu's name was Lydia, originally the youngest princess of Liang Kingdom. I heard after Liang Kingdom fell, all adult royalty were executed. Only she and her young brother survived, sent to Liang County. Many years later, she was sent to the palace by that very same younger brother. Lydia had the typical beauty of southern women. Slender figure sitting in the wind pavilion, light clothing swaying, looking like an ink painting. Seeing me enter, she rose to perform a light greeting. Empress, 10,000 blessings. Her voice was soft as water, gently rising. I have long heard of your Majesty's reputation, always hoping for a day to become close. Yesterday we were rushed and didn't have time to chat properly. Today I specially invited your Majesty to Tingyu Pavilion, hoping you won't find it troublesome. Her voice, saturated with soft southern charm, plus that subtle fragrance around her, almost made me forget my status, almost softening my heart. No. Sophie sitting beside me lightly pinched my hand, reminding me. My lady must maintain an empress's bearing. I didn't bother with such things, just cheerfully pushed the plate of peach blossom cakes before her. Snacks made by people in my palace. Try them. Lydia smiled faintly, movements elegant, slowly eating one piece bite by bite. The rest all went into my stomach. She looked at me, eyes carrying a smiling intent. I didn't expect your Majesty to look so delicate yet have such an appetite. Hearing this I wasn't angry, just calmly replied. Food shouldn't be wasted. But inwardly I thought, I'm not thin at all, just hiding the flesh. Especially the soft flesh at my waist that Damien likes kneading most. Oh wait, why am I suddenly thinking of him? Clearly he and I have only slept together twice. How can I remember so clearly? I let my mind wander. After a long while, I finally heard Lydia speak up asking what Damien likes to eat, saying she wants to personally make something to present to him. I pondered for a moment, expression uncertain. Probably egg soup. Lydia paused, eyes full of doubt. That evening Damien came even earlier than yesterday. He tilted his head and sniffed lightly, immediately recognizing. Went to see Consort Shu. Asked like a question but didn't seem surprised at all. As soon as he finished speaking, he turned and ordered palace servants to attend me for bathing and changing clothes. When I came out with still, damp hair tied up, Damien had already pulled me over. He took the towel, naturally drying my hair, movements practiced and smooth without any hesitation. By the time I realized, I was already leaning fully against his chest. After a long while I finally reacted, opening my mouth to ask, Your Majesty, don't you like the fragrance on Consort Shu? His voice was lazy, answering carelessly, Oh. I pondered then casually continued. Then next time if your Majesty plans to come, let me know in advance. I'll bathe clean before you arrive. The hair, drying motion paused. He laughed softly, neither fast nor slow. Don't want to know why I don't like it. I tilted my head, voice even. Of course your Majesty has your own reasons. Mainly I'm too lazy to ask. What if I touch upon some unpleasant past? No fun in that? He leaned over slightly, hand lifting my chin, laughing softly. If so, the Empress should prepare in advance, it'll be troublesome. But for my sake, don't visit Consort Shu anymore, alright? I said frankly, everyone's in the palace, that's a bit difficult. His eyes darkened, corners of his mouth still smiling but his eyes cold as a frozen lake under moonlight. The thin ice reflecting a false gentleness, as if the lake was still flowing however slowly. Even slow as I am, I felt something was wrong. I immediately softened my voice, lowering my head. If your Majesty says so, I'll obey. His eyes shifted slightly, asking again, me. I nodded without thinking. Who's the biggest in the palace? If not him, then who? Besides, Tingyu Pavilion is too far from here. Honestly, I'm also too lazy to go there. Damien's perspective, she's very obedient. In her heart, there must be me. Alina's perspective, living with a man isn't as comfortable as living with a hen. From that day on, Damien began staying at Ninghua Palace every night, doing nothing else but simply holding me to sleep. So I also didn't step out of the palace even half a step, partly afraid of picking up some fragrance and being forced to bathe again, partly just lazy. When early summer arrived, ministers at court again stood up worrying about the world, saying the emperor had no heir yet, the future of Thorn needed attention. The words sounded reasonable, but according to intelligence Sophie gathered, that minister was just dissatisfied that despite new arrivals in the harem, Damien didn't even glance at them once. The Empress monopolized all favor, truly a calamity. Sophie mimicked his indignant manner, expression serious and unbearable. Previously heard Ashford's princess had the looks of a fox spirit. She must have bewitched his majesty. If she bears a prince with Ashford bloodline, what then? Hearing this, I calmly ordered the kitchen to steam fish for dinner, tender and sweet. Sophie shook her head regretfully with a sigh, calling out, "My lady." I waved my hand casually. Don't waste energy thinking about such things. No matter how big the storm at court, it won't blow to this palace door. Besides, if that day really comes, we can't do anything about it anyway. Better to eat our fill first. From birth, the name, beauty-bringing calamity, has followed me relentlessly. If I kept dwelling on it, I'd never stop thinking. Better to eat than worry. That evening I ate half a steamed fish, quite happily. When Damien entered, I couldn't help letting out a small hiccup, not very elegant. Really not my fault. He just came too early this time. I won't stay here tonight. He glanced at the leftover food on the table, voice casual. Hearing this I wasn't bothered, just nodded. Your Majesty has business. Next time just have little Fortune relay the message, no need to rush over like this. He acted as if he didn't hear, just looking straight at me, tone even. Tonight I'll visit Consort Shu. I paused briefly. Well, she's been in the palace 2 months already. I nodded again. Damien's expression at that moment suddenly became hard to read, as if somewhat angry yet carrying failure. I stared but still couldn't understand what it meant. He was silent for a while, then swept his sleeve and left. That night when lying in bed, I felt somewhat unaccustomed, as if something was missing beside me. I had to hug a pillow to barely sleep peacefully. The next morning Sophie's expression was tense. She said His Majesty's complexion wasn't good at morning court, his mood gloomy and temperament irritable. My lady, could it be that last night at Consort Shu's place, His Majesty really? I didn't answer, just looked at the vegetable plot under the sunlight, voice even. Sophie, our bok choy is ready to harvest. Sophie immediately forgot what she'd just said, exclaiming, yes, this is the last harvest. After picking this batch, I had no more seeds to sow. When first leaving Ashford, I thought I wouldn't live long, so didn't bring much. Now I realized I'd been too short-sighted. Sighing was useless. Land empty, vegetables gone. Sophie and I ate bok choy for 3 consecutive days, finally getting sick of it. We could only urge the old hen to lay eggs daily. The hen, pushed too hard, got angry and pecked Sophie's hand. She sat still letting me treat the wound, eyes resentful, voice tentative. My lady, why don't we buy more seeds? Hearing this, I patted her forehead, smiling like I'd struck gold. Finally willing to focus on farming instead of dreaming about fighting for favor. Sophie Riesendaming kept staying at Tingyu Pavilion. At first Sophie kept nagging in my ear, telling me to win back the Emperor's affection. But later she must have discovered it was pointless effort, so gave up. I felt quite satisfied but had no intention of continuing farming. The reason was simple, because the imperial kitchen cut my food portions, I had to fend for myself. Now as Empress, food wasn't lacking. Why bother making myself tired? Sophie looked at me with deep eyes. My lady, actually you're just lazy, right? I calmly said, when the summer's here, weather's stuffy. I'm even lazier. Better to hide in the shade watching the old hen lay eggs than stand in the sun tending the garden. But just days later, something unexpected happened. A cat killed my old hen right before my eyes. A pregnant stray caught red-handed, yet not afraid of people at all, still biting the chicken's neck, refusing to let go. The young eunuchs surrounded and captured it in an iron cage. It curled in a corner, yellow eyes glaring everywhere, hissing threats at anyone who came near. I wasn't angry, just squatted beside the cage intently watching. Sophie, now understanding me well, sighed. My lady, do you want to raise a cat now? I nodded, voice firm. Right. Look, Clucky died in its mouth, a life for a life. The rest of its life must be given to me. Sophie looked confused. Ooze Clucky. I licked my lips, voice impossibly serious. My old hen, I just named her. Calling her by name sounds more dignified. Sophie, that poor stray cat really was too fierce. All day it still wouldn't look at anyone, not eating or drinking, curled in the corner, eyes constantly staring outside as if guarding against everyone. I looked at it with heartache. While troubled, I suddenly heard Sophie report, My lady, Consort Liang requests an audience. Before she finished speaking, Consort Liang had already rushed in. Her gaze swept around, stopping immediately on the iron cage, then pouncing over. Meow meow. So you really are here. The truth revealed. Sophie and I exchanged glances. I smiled ambiguously. Consort Liang, if this cat is yours, then you owe me a life. My Clucky died in its mouth. Consort Liang repeated in confusion. Clucky, I didn't change expression, looking mournful. Clucky was my most beloved child. Consort Liang panicked. I never heard the Empress was with child. Sophie couldn't take it anymore, jumping in to explain. Consort Liang, Clucky was the hen the Empress raised. Deep feelings, very deep. Last night the Empress even personally stewed a pot of chicken soup to commemorate Clucky's departed soul. Consort Liang, Damien's perspective, why isn't she jealous? Elena's thoughts, not thinking about men, just want to raise cats. Consort Liang's name was Genevieve, originally princess of Zhang Kingdom. Zhang Kingdom surrendered at the right time without losing soldiers. The whole Jiang family lived peacefully in Zhang County. This time entering the palace was just her father wanting to please Damien, conveniently sending her to the harem. That stray cat she brought along. Unexpectedly when entering the palace it was already 1 month pregnant, recently gave birth to a litter of 3, now only 1 survived. Genevieve helped Mio Mio apologize, but her expression remained awkward and troubled, wringing her handkerchief endlessly. Finally she said when the kitten was 3 months old, she'd give it to me as compensation. Seeing her reluctant look, I couldn't bear to make things difficult, just said, "Why don't you find another chicken to compensate me?" She shook her head, biting her lip lightly, voice resolute, "No, Your Majesty. I must let Mio Mio take responsibility for Clucky's death." I was silent for a moment, then nodded. All right then. When I visited Tinyu Pavilion to see the kitten, I finally understood why she was so determined. That kitten, probably its mother gave birth too carelessly. Black fur disheveled, looking just like a torn rag. According to Genevieve, it looked no different from a torn rag. Don't know which heartless male cat did this. Genevieve's voice full of indignation. Must be worthless, daring to bring disaster to my Mio Mio. I looked carefully at the kitten, pondered a moment then said, "Not that bad." Looking carefully, it's quite cute. When it's a bit bigger, give it to me to raise. Genevieve pondered then asked, "Does Your Majesty plan to name it?" I stroked my chin, slowly answering, "You choose. Or just call it Ragdoll." From then on Genevieve and I visited each other more frequently. Ragdoll was still small, Mio Mio too protective, not letting it leave even half a step. I had no choice but to actively leave Ninghua Palace, occasionally visiting Shaanxi Pavilion. Genevieve was somewhat spoiled like a young miss, but not bad-natured, much easier to deal with than Lydia. Most importantly, the first time I brought peach blossom cakes for her, she ate even more than me. That's the reason I thought this person worth befriending. Genevieve talked a lot. Before she only talked to Mio Mio, now with me added, she grabbed me and poured out her heart. She said she'd heard before rumors that Ashford's Empress was a conniving snake, ruthless and hard to survive with. Only after meeting did she know those rumors weren't credible. I seriously corrected her, the words weren't entirely unbelievable. She was stunned. "Oh," I affirmed clearly, word by word, "I truly am a beauty." Genevieve, honestly speaking, my mother was originally from Thorn. Because of her heavenly beauty, she was forcibly taken by my father to be his consort. In the end she died of melancholy. My other siblings, though we look somewhat similar, their mothers weren't as beautiful as mine, so their appearances aren't as good as mine. Perhaps because I look too much like my mother. Father doesn't want to see me, afraid each time he looks he'll remember the past when he harmed an innocent woman. That year when I came of age, that fake fortune teller calculated my fate, saying I was a fox demon reincarnated, a beauty-bringing calamity, destined to harm country and people. If not that, then I'd curse my husband and children to death. So civil and military officials throughout Ashford Court, not one dared marry me. Unable to select a husband, I just waited like that for 4 years, becoming an old maid, then was sent by my brilliantly wise father to Damien. Everyone says beauty-bringing calamity. The mama who raised me also said this appearance of mine was the seed of disaster, but I think perhaps disaster might bring fortune. For instance now, my becoming empress definitely owes much to this beautiful appearance. Genevieve now dared to tease me. How arrogant. If speaking of appearance, I still prefer someone like Consort Shu. Just that her temperament is too strange, I really can't befriend her. Then she began gossiping with me about everything under the sun. I heard the Liang family has always been restless. Isn't Consort Shu extremely favored these days? I heard it definitely relates to her younger brother. Lydia's younger brother is said to be someone with great wisdom, originally demoted to commoner status, but somehow mixed into the military, achieving considerable merit in the recent rebellion suppression. Now officially promoted to Major General. I scratched Ragdoll's chin while remarking, truly an inspiring story. Genevieve secretly glanced at me. You have no thoughts about this? What thoughts? She elbowed me. Weren't you the most favored before? Now His Majesty hasn't come to your place for so long. I felt like I was looking at Sophie from the past, helplessly saying, isn't this how the harem is? Better to eat well and sleep soundly, right? Right, Ragdoll. Ragdoll the cat nodded. Look, it agrees with my viewpoint. Genevieve, that night going to sleep, I remembered Damien again. I couldn't help asking Sophie, how long has it been since His Majesty came to our place? Probably over a month, Your Majesty. Sophie was frightened. My lady, why are you suddenly asking about this? Are you fevered? I pushed her hand away, laughing. You're the one with fever. Getting more and more impudent. But you're afraid of what comes. At midnight I suddenly woke, feeling unbearably hot. Groping around, I found someone holding me, scaring my soul out of my body. Who? From above my head came a familiarly cold voice, even somewhat mocking. Woke you, Your Majesty. Weren't you staying at Tingyu Pavilion tonight? I saw the window half open, exhaling in relief. Your Majesty climbed through the window. He showed no shame at all. Why so startled? Dream of something. Woke from the heat. I answered honestly, then pushed at him. Your Majesty, you're too close. Too hot, I'm sweating all over. Later I'll have to bathe again, so troublesome. Damien held my waist tighter, conveniently yawning, making him sound. Seems my Empress has been living quite well lately. I felt his tone was cold, as if not very pleased, so I joked, must be because eating that old hen was quite nourishing. He actually laughed too, a rather suppressed laugh, then buried his head in my neck and bit once. The bite was rather hard, making me involuntarily grunt. I felt his body getting even hotter. Lena. He rarely called my name like this, but after calling said nothing more. I sensed the change in something, softly calling him, Your Majesty. He tightened his arms, not letting me move, speaking in what sounded like gritted teeth. Shut up. So I said nothing more, didn't struggle either. People say when the mind is calm, naturally you'll feel cool. Gradually I really didn't feel hot anymore, and drifted back to sleep following Damien's breathing. The next morning when I woke, Sophie said she hadn't seen His Majesty. Probably Damien had climbed back through the window to Tingyu Pavilion early in the morning. Regarding this, I could only say he really knew how to torment himself. So the next time Damien climbed through the window, I couldn't help sighing. Your Majesty, you can't sleep, can you? He pinched my chin, eyes radiating danger. Don't want me to come. It's not that. Your Majesty can come whenever you want. But could your movements be a bit gentler? Being woken at midnight is a very unpleasant experience. Damien kept staring deathlike. Would you be willing for me to come? My desire to survive immediately surfaced. Very willing. Even dreaming I look forward to Your Majesty coming here. He curled his lip, obviously not believing, but his mood improved somewhat, even taking advantage to advance. Then I'll come every day from now on. As long as Your Majesty is happy. At most I'll just sleep more during the day. From that day, Damien began sneaking to my chambers every night to hold me while sleeping. According to him, he couldn't sleep peacefully at Tingyu Pavilion, only here, perhaps thanks to the soft flesh at my waist. Though I could still sleep, having to wait until after midnight every day made his complexion worse day by day. Sophie even had to whisper in my ear, My lady, I heard His Majesty has dark circles under his eyes. Could it be from excessive indulgence? I remembered someone who last night hugged my waist refusing to let go, even complaining I was fat, deliberately telling Sophie, probably so. That night Damien came early, crawling up from the foot of the bed. One hand gripped my ankle tightly, the other patted my waist, leisurely saying, I'm excessively indulgent. He knew of course it was normal. The entire harem was full of his eyes and ears. Actually he knew my every move since entering the palace. I knew he grasped everything in his palm, he just couldn't be bothered to pay attention. But what was about to happen was truly dangerous. In summer's heat I wore very thin clothes. His slightly cool fingers caressed from my ankle all the way up. I only felt fire spreading from below to my belly. My voice began trembling. Your Majesty, I was just joking with Sophie. Tonight he seemed a bit strange. His usually cold voice now hoarse and low. I'm only asking you one thing, am I excessively indulgent? The temperature of the hand at my waist gradually rose. I could feel him getting closer and closer, emitting dangerous signals in the dark night. I swallowed. Every night your majesty favors consort Shu, there must be some. My father used to visit many consorts every night but was still healthy. Elena. Damien gritted his teeth calling my name, then restrained both my hands, then pressed down. Summer weather was rather hot after all. After a long while, his voice still somewhat hoarsey, the fragrance in Consort Shu's palace has problems. Oh, is this something I'm allowed to know? I pretended to cover my ears but was held fast by my wrists. My fingertips were slightly cool while my ears quietly heated. Damien's night vision seemed very good. He laughed softly, pinching my earlobe. You're the Empress, of course you should know. Using aphrodisiac incense to fight for favor. I'd seen such tactics in my father's harem before. That person even acted more covertly than Lydia. Damien had detected the abnormality early on but still played along, building a false image of extremely favoring Lydia. As for the reason, I didn't ask or guess. After all, who complains about living too long? I silently listened to the whole affair, then asked Damien. So your majesty, are you planning to sleep? It's really very late, I'm sleepy to death. Damien, go to sleep. But before sleeping, I heard his extremely gloomy teeth grinding. Actually, I could have slept right away, but considering I now knew some things I shouldn't know, preserving life was more important, so I kissed him near his lips to calm his emotions. He seemed somewhat stunned, then laughed helplessly, hugging me tightly, repeating, sleep. After that night's events, he began coming earlier, also becoming bolder. I went from initial red-faced embarrassment to calm indifference, even daring to tease him. Your Majesty, actually by logic, doing this every day could count as excessive indulgence. So one night Damien made me sleep the whole next day, to the point I had to skip visiting Ragdoll. Outside still rumored consort Shu was most favored in the harem. Her brother gained power. The Liang royal siblings fortunately had two accomplished descendants. Zhang Kingdom, having surrendered early, began being frequently compared to the Liang siblings. The more they compared, the more it highlighted those two's integrity. Genevieve heard these rumors and got so angry she wouldn't even eat snacks, resentfully telling me, so what if we surrendered? We didn't eat any of their rice. Previously Zhang Kingdom's people lived too miserably. My father and elder brothers, one look and you know they're not capable of managing a whole country. So isn't surrendering like this reforming evil for good? I saw her about to pull out another tuft of Mio Mio's fur, quickly consoling her. Let them say what they want. You know idle people like wagging their tongues. But they can't affect you. She was still extremely angry and indignant, had to curse for a long while before calming down. Then asked me back, Lana, what about your country's future? Have you thought about it? I was briefly stunned, then calmly said, let nature take its course. My worrying wouldn't help anyway. I didn't ask Damien about state affairs, so didn't know if he intended to annex Ashford. Though father told me to whisper in his ear. My view on this aligned with Genevieve's. Under my father's rule, Ashford's people truly didn't live peacefully for even one day. Most of my siblings were useless too, so Ashford's future was very unclear. But I wouldn't be stupid enough to urge Damien to swallow Ashford at this time. I still held the view, one less trouble is better than one more. I recognized myself as lacking great ability, so had no intention of meddling in these troublesome matters. Everyone has their own fate. I'm just a coward. Naturally, I can only live a coward's life. In summary, surviving is enough. From when I grew vegetables in Ashford's desolate palace, I already knew, as a useless person, if I can live makeshift, then live makeshift peacefully. This very principle kept me from advancing to shield Damien the day he was assassinated. The one who advanced was Lydia. She was stabbed in the belly, falling into Damien's arms, face pale, mouth spewing fresh blood. Before fainting, she didn't forget to leave a sentence. Your Majesty being unharmed is good. The assassin was captured, but Damien didn't even glance at them once, just staring at Lydia in shock. After the guards questioned several times, he finally coldly spat out one word, kill. His face and clothes were all stained with blood, emanating an aura as if returning from hell's Asura realm. I suppressed the strange feeling in my heart, calmly looking away to help handle subsequent matters. That night I heard Damien stayed at Tingyu Pavilion all night. Meanwhile, I rarely tossed and turned all night like this, unable to sleep at all. The next day, the Ministry of Justice investigated. The assassin was sent by Ashford. Damien flew into rage at morning court, discussing with civil and military ministers about sending troops to punish Ashford. When news reached us, Genevieve was just bringing Ragdoll over. Hearing this, she looked at me worriedly. I just smiled at her, saying nothing, focusing on playing with Ragdoll. The weather was turning cold, probably autumn soon. Damien kept vigil at Tingyu Pavilion for 3 days. When Lydia woke, he promoted her to noble consort. Her brother Lucas was promoted to general, ordered to attack Ashford in autumn. I still lived peacefully in Ningwa Palace. My daily joy was teasing Ragdoll. Too bad trees want stillness but wind won't cease. Outside rumors arose saying Ashford's assassination attempt definitely related to the Empress. Some ministers even memorialized requesting thorough investigation of me. Just then a carrier pigeon was caught by Ragdoll. I took the secret letter tied to its leg and brought it to the Imperial study to find Damien. Counting up, it had been 7 or 8 days since I'd seen him. The atmosphere between us was no longer as harmonious as before. Damien had grown thinner, his expression colder. But seeing it was me, his expression still softened somewhat. Secret letter from Ashford. The Empress just brings it like this. In the letter my father proposed an extremely stupid plan, telling me to coordinate inside and outside to assassinate Damien to prevent Ashford from being annexed. For someone useless like me, reading this left me speechless. Not to mention whether his daughter could do such a thing. Even if Damien was really killed, couldn't the entire Thorn still defeat Ashford? But this letter had benefits. It proved the previous assassination wasn't done by Ashford. After all, the same strategy couldn't be repeated twice. I honestly explained I didn't have the courage, everything would follow your Majesty's decision. Damien said nothing, just stroked that paper for a long while before saying, Alana, do you wish for my death? I shook my head blankly. He smiled. If I destroy your Ashford, kill all your clansmen, would you wish for my death then? I was stunned for a long while before honestly answering, I don't know. Since I entered the palace, Your Majesty has always been very good to me, and I've heard of Your Majesty's achievements at court. In my eyes, Your Majesty is a benevolent ruler who should live as long as heaven and earth. He seemed not to hear, just slowly walking before me, lifting my chin, his dark eyes unreadable. Then what about your private heart? Do you wish for my death? His voice was casual but somehow reminded me of him at night when breathing rapidly between kisses, occasionally spilling out my name. Elena. 2 short syllables made lingering by him. I seemed bewitched by his eyes deep as lakes, unable to help answering. No. The words barely finished when he immediately covered my lips. Only when I couldn't breathe did he reluctantly release me. Not only that, he smiled with utmost satisfaction. Then I'll live very long. Light and casual, yet like he'd just agreed to some important oath. My heart felt annoyed thinking this person was too easy to coax. Then I touched my slightly swollen lips, asking a question I'd harbored for long. Then Your Majesty toward Consort Shu, isn't that going too far? A bit over the line, but somehow I just wanted to ask. He'd already sat back in his chair, pulling me into his embrace, answering in different act. But, she did shield you. He'd begun kneading my nape. So what? If everyone who shields me, I must have feelings for them, then there are no less than 10 guards in the palace who've blocked swords for me. Should I have feelings for all of them? That made sense. After that Damien didn't mention state affairs again, just lazily leaning against me, as if he hadn't rested in a long time, extremely tired. Perhaps he was laying out an enormously complex chess game. Now he and I were on the same side, at least closely related in matters of life and death. I didn't need to help with anything, just not add more troubles. So I let him hold me the whole afternoon like that. Before leaving he called me back, asking for my courtesy name from maiden days. Yayo. I rarely blushed like this. From the poem Gently Swaying Bamboo Forest, Yayo echoes clear and late. Yayo. He repeated these 2 syllables, expression pleased with a smile. Pleasant to hear, suits you well. I glared at him in annoyance, then left as if fleeing. In following days, Damien still visited Lydia daily. Outwardly extremely cold to me, but come midnight he'd climb through my window to bite me all over. Those 2 syllables, Yayo, when spoken by him seemed about to bloom. He also frequently requested I call his courtesy name. He laughed, saying I was like a blank page, while he was like a brush that could splash ink freely, drawing intoxicated strokes. Regarding this assessment, I had only one thing to say: Your Majesty, that's rather creepy. He bit my nape again, asking what I called him. I called you rather creepy. He wasn't angry, just kissed my face, then laughed heartily. Just muddling along like this for over half a month. Lydia recovered considerably. Damien ordered Lucas to lead troops attacking Ashford. The moment that decree was issued, I still couldn't help feeling uneasy. It felt like once war began, between Damien and me there would forever exist an invisible barrier. After all, I was once Ashford's princess. At this time, Lydia, having just recovered from injury, came to find me again. She gave me a paper that read, "Autumn wind rises, war drums gold." I didn't understand the meaning but still agreed to meet her. She still appeared delicate as willow catkins and peach blossoms, but her eyes showed determination. Your Majesty, I have this poem couplet, wondering if I might ask your guidance. She continued, south of the river, north of the river, old homeland, 30 years a dream bout. Wonder what interpretation your Majesty has for these 2 lines. I truly had no idea. Since birth I'd never had any tutor teach me. My knowledge of music, chess, calligraphy and painting, I mastered none. My literacy was thanks to the mama who raised me. Obviously Lydia hadn't anticipated this situation. She was both astonished and vexed. Your Majesty, this poem expresses the pain of a fallen nation. I nodded. Oh, so that's what it means. Lydia stared at me dumbfounded. Only then did I ask, don't you already understand its meaning? Why ask? She seemed somewhat embarrassed, taking a deep breath before continuing. Your Majesty, His Majesty has decided to attack Ashford. In less than 3 months, Ashford will. Your Majesty, how can one forget the hatred of a lost country? I was frightened by her intense emotions, shrinking back. Well, the country hasn't fallen yet. If you want to say these things, at least wait 3 months before speaking. Lydia. Finally Lydia left, departing with regretful look I was most familiar with. After she left, Sophie tentatively asked me, My lady, does His Majesty really want to? I stroked Ragdoll in my arms with a sigh. Sophie, regrettably your mistress truly is just a useless person with only beautiful looks. I cannot be a hero who changes heaven and earth. But what I didn't expect was that among my siblings, not everyone was useless. The first 3 days when Thorn attacked, Lucas led troops sweeping through like an uninhabited land. But on the 4th day, they met Ashford's desperate resistance. The commanding general was my 3rd brother, Ashford's 3rd Prince Edmund. I heard both sides deadlocked for about 7 days, then my father personally went to the front lines to surrender himself. When Damien recounted this news, I accidentally dropped a wine cup, wetting half my sleeve. Damien wasn't angry, just grabbed my hand and leisurely, unhurriedly helped wipe it clean, calmly asking, worried. I came back to my senses, quickly looking up. How will your Majesty deal with my family? This question had haunted my mind since the 2 countries went to war. I could convince myself to let fate decide. After all, my mother was from Thorn. I had half Thorn blood in me. So when the 2 countries fought, I could stand in a more neutral position. Moreover, life for Ashford's people under my father's rule really wasn't good. But now when it came to matters of life and death, these blood ties seemed to bind me again. From that day, Lydia sent me another letter, writing of the pain and regret of losing one's country and having clansmen killed. Also saying if I continued to stand by with folded arms like this, I would definitely end up like her. I carefully read the letter, clear evidence of plotting rebellion, but didn't give it to Damien, nor did I reply to Lydia. I just burned it. My mindset then was, what hasn't happened yet needs no worry. But today everything had already happened, no way to reverse the situation. Life or death all lay in Damien's single thought. The one holding power of life and death silently stared at me for a moment, then said, if you are Ashford's princess, your family will probably meet the same fate as Liang's royal family. But if you are my wife, Thorn's empress, naturally your family will be safe and sound. Being Ashford's princess or being Thorn's empress, Elena must see which she chooses. I felt this was an absurd question. After pondering half the day, I asked Damien back, in your Majesty's heart, what character am I? He seemed surprised I asked this, stunned for a moment, then said meaningfully, in my heart, you've always been Thorn's empress. Then I'll be Thorn's empress. Though I'd answered correctly, it made Damien hesitate. Are you certain? This means you're abandoning your clan relatives, giving up the title of Ashford's princess. From now on you're only Thorne's empress. I am. He hesitated slightly, lowering his eyes, voice hoarse by degrees. My wife. I only felt the hand holding mine growing tighter and tighter, as if his emotions were unstable. So I softened my voice. Your Majesty, if we consider carefully, Ashford no longer exists. Whether I want to keep this Ashford princess identity or not can't change that fact. Moreover, according to your words, I've already married you. I'm already half Thorne person. So this really isn't a big deal. Married to me. He repeated these words, then suddenly laughed. You speak truly. I couldn't guess his meaning, just tried answering. Not really married over, more accurately sent over. Damien's expression immediately cooled several degrees. I quickly corrected my words. Married over is married over. I, Elena, have long married Damien. As soon as these words ended, Damien's expression could be described as winter passing to spring, ice and snow melting. That night he didn't pretend to favor Lydia anymore, but decisively stayed in my palace, declaring he wanted to make up for our wedding night. I thought he would handle it himself like always. Who knew this time he did it for real, eating me clean from inside out. After finishing he even sighed. Yao, finally you belong to me. The tide rose and fell, wave after wave. I was like someone about to drown, trying to escape, but Damien wouldn't let go, pulling me back. Yao, no escaping. I was bitten at the vulnerable spot behind my neck, unable to move. The next day when I woke, the sun was already high. Damien also rarely skipped morning court, holding me sleeping very comfortably. I was extremely tired with no strength left to move, but my mouth still worked. Dead tired. He grinned, looking just like Ragdoll when full. You didn't use any effort once tiring. Saying this, he even pinched my already limp waist. I was too embarrassed and turned angry, calling out. Ragdoll swooshed, immediately jumping on the bed, solidly landing on Damien's stomach, conveniently scratching his neck. Damien, I'd already dodged to one side, seeing this and laughing aloud, planning to reward Ragdoll with an extra fish later. Damien's face darkened as he lifted Ragdoll off the bed, then turned back to grab my hand, squinting. Yao, come here, I swallowed. Your Majesty, there's a wound on your neck. He curled his lips smiling. Then I'm telling you to come apply medicine for me. What did you think I was calling you for? I expended effort and beauty to apply medicine for Damien all morning. Afterward he slowly said, actually I had no intention of dealing with your family. At least not some of them. So yesterday's conversation was just to frighten me. Obviously Damien was very pleased with his cunning deception, wearing a smile that made one want to beat him. Soon your third brother can enter the palace to see you. You should prepare. I was stunned. How do you know? I know everything, Yao. He kissed my eyes. If he hadn't previously cared for and looked after you, I wouldn't have told Lucas to spare his life. What about father? He kissed my lips again. After a while he said, those who once humiliated you have all been locked up. Yao, don't pay attention to them anymore. You've married me. Now you only need to look at me alone. That day, Damien's madness revealed itself a bit, but I didn't notice. After the war between Thorne and Ashford, Lucas returned victorious, his reputation resounding. People everywhere praised the Liang siblings. Damien specially organized a palace banquet to welcome and cleanse the dust for the generals. He only brought one consort, Lydia, to attend. While I as empress naturally stayed in the harem to wait to meet third brother. Among all my siblings, only third brother was closest to me. His mother consort and my mother had a very good relationship, so after my mother died of sudden illness, he cared for me greatly. It's just there were too many princes, the fight for the throne extremely fierce, and his nature was simple and kind, so he suffered losses countless times. What he could do for me was limited. But that didn't affect my closeness with him. The year the fortune teller declared I would harm country and people, it was he who remonstrated with father, saying we shouldn't be superstitious, believing unfounded words. Father was watching dancers at the time. Hearing this he said with some annoyance, since she was born, our Ashford has met misfortune in everything. Whether these are unfounded words or not, go ask Ashford's people if they believe it. Laughable. Ashford's people hated me to the bone. When I was young I once left the palace to sightsee. After my identity was recognized, I was immediately cursed by the people, even receiving the friendly greeting of several rotten eggs and vegetable leaves. At that time third brother was extremely disappointed. The day I departed for Thorn, he sighed, Yayo, if possible, never return to this country. It's already rotten through. But rotten is rotten. When Thorn attacked, third brother still stubbornly resisted. He'd rather die than surrender. Meeting again this time, his eyes were red. After choking up for a long while he finally got out one sentence. Yayo, you've gotten fat. The food in Thorn was better quality than Ashford, hard to avoid getting plump. I smiled, ordering palace servants to bring up the food prepared in advance. Third brother carefully observed, then nodded. Indeed so. So the first thing we siblings did after meeting was eat a hearty meal. After wine and food were sufficient, third brother carefully recounted past events. When Thorn declared attack, Ashford's ministers automatically split into two factions, one wanting to fight, one wanting to surrender. They argued for several days. When Thorn's army approached, the civil and military officials had almost all joined the surrender faction. Only my third brother still held firm resolve, even personally leading troops to the front lines to battle Lucas decisively. The two were evenly matched. Lucas even said if not for the wrong timing, perhaps they could have been close friends. But such a pity, too much pity. The moment father appeared and personally begged surrender, third brother's eyes were red with killing, armor soaked in fresh blood, surrounded by corpses lying helter-skelter. Autumn wind raised golden war drums. Ashford's flag no longer flew. War drums no longer sounded. At that time I looked at father leading the surrender, standing before the corpses of soldiers, feeling only mockery. Third brother finally shed tears, veins bulging on his forehead. A country like this, rotten to the roots. I didn't know how to comfort him. Everything was already an unchangeable outcome. After all, I couldn't encourage him to assassinate Damien at this point, then advance to seize power. According to third brother, Ashford already had problems from the very roots. Even if he protected it this time, in the future there would still be countless more times like this. A ruler who is inhumane, that country will surely perish. But thinking positively, for Ashford's people perhaps the days of extreme suffering were about to end. Third brother was silent for a long while, then also thought it through himself. While patting my head he said, "Eaten a bit much. Let me take you to walk it off." I felt something was off. Walk where? Third brother pinched his nose. The imperial prison. Is that Damien's idea? Third brother made an sound. Quite reasonable. I quickly stood up. Then let's go. Third brother muttered, "You really listen to him?" I found it extremely puzzling. Don't you also listen to him? Otherwise why would you take me to the imperial prison? Third brother. If Lydia saw this scene, she'd curse both me and Edmund for having no integrity. But could she control this matter? The imperial prison held father and several other siblings I'd never met. But third brother's goal was very clear. He brought me to see father. The one who was once a country's king now wore prisoner's clothes, hair disheveled, face haggard. The first sentence upon seeing me was, "Unfilial daughter." Before finishing, he was kicked by the prison guard beside him. Before the Empress, such impudence. It felt like after that kick, his old bones were completely shattered. I didn't want to pay attention to him, turning to ask third brother, "Why does Damien want me to see him?" Third brother looked at father, eyes difficult to read. "To let you know about your mother's past matters. The events of that year. I've long forgotten." He was kicked again, making him spit blood, curling on the ground. Third brother looked away. It was already agreed. If you won't speak, you know what fate awaits. He still muttered curses, ungrateful son, ungrateful daughter. After cursing, in the dim prison cell, he began reluctantly recounting old events. Many years ago when Victor was still a prince, he disguised himself to infiltrate Thorn, accidentally encountering assassins. Badly wounded, my mother appeared at exactly that moment. In the desolate fields in the mountains, my mother saw this and couldn't bear it, deciding to save him. After some time together, Victor fell for my mother. After confessing, he heard she had no feelings for him, so grew resentful. After recovering from his wounds, he used tricks to knock my mother unconscious, then forcibly brought her to Ashford. If my mother were a country woman, Thorn wouldn't have discovered this matter. But her real name was Thea, youngest daughter of Duke Ding. Because she'd been sickly since childhood, she was raised in the countryside away from worldly affairs. Unexpectedly she met disaster because of this. At that time Thorn's royal family was in chaos. Duke Ding was busy pacifying forces everywhere, also knowing my mother always had secret guards protecting her, so didn't pay much attention. Who knew Victor would lead a team using dirty tricks to kill all the secret guards, forcibly taking my mother away? When Duke Ding discovered, my mother had already changed name and surname, trapped in Ashford's deep palace. From when the secret guards appeared, Victor knew my mother's identity was extraordinary, but seeing her beauty made him bold. In the end, he still committed this evil deed. After my mother woke, she was extremely resentful. Victor used every method to escape, but was caught back each time. Victor loved her but also hated her for not loving him, using all means of threats and coaxing, beating and soothing, but nothing worked. So afterward he began being cold to her. Even knowing she was pregnant and gave birth to a princess, he wouldn't step foot in her palace even half a step. Even at the moment hearing news of my mother's death, he was only stunned briefly, then immediately embraced a new favorite, laughing and saying, "Play the next tune, dance the next dance." I'd never heard such detailed past events, never knew my mother had suffered so much. In my memories, she was always gentle, occasionally showing melancholy between her brows. But when she looked at me, all those emotions would vanish. She would only call me softly, "Yao, come here. Today mother will teach you something else." The skills of growing vegetables and raising chickens were taught by her. Besides that, she knew how to weave leaves into grasshopper shapes, knew how to catch sparrows, knew many other things. I always thought she was just an ordinary farm woman. Who knew she was Duke Ding's young miss? Now looking at the old man before me, I suddenly felt somewhat disgusted, and truly threw up a leo. "Yao, are you all right?" Third brother worriedly patted my back with a sigh. "Originally didn't plan to let you know these things, but Damien already knew, and he hoped I would know too." I suddenly understood Damien's purpose. Looking toward that criminal, I smiled. "I should thank him. Thank him for destroying your country." Victor's face changed colors several times, suddenly becoming agitated. "Unfilial daughter, what are you saying? I am your father? Yet you don't know filial piety. Just like your mother, I was her husband, yet she all." The rest was just wild rambling. I didn't want to hear more, immediately leaving with third brother. After going outside, I looked up at the blazing sun, asking third brother about his future plans. He just smiled bitterly. "Do I even have the right to decide this?" Oh right. Now Ashford had fallen. The current Ashford people were all slaves of a fallen nation, prisoners without rights to determine their own fate. But now I had selfish motives. At least I didn't hope third brother would end up like them. So I said, "If third brother trusts me, I can help you with this matter." He was stunned. "What will you do?" I said extremely seriously. "Use beauty to seduce Damien a bit should work." Edmund. Of course this dialogue also reached Damien's ears. He deliberately sent someone to tell me he wouldn't accept anyone's night service tonight, sleeping alone. For such a matter he wanted to proclaim to the world. I felt somewhat speechless. Sophie knew I wanted to seduce Damien for favor, showing full support. She spent all afternoon doing my makeup, choosing an outrageous outfit so gaudy even Ragdoll jumped up, completely not recognizing who I was. I immediately knew this girl's favor, fighting mindset still hadn't disappeared. Sophie was extremely satisfied. "My lady has heavenly beauty. His Majesty will definitely love it." So I was just like that, delivered to Damien's chambers. When I arrived, he was still handling state affairs in the study, leaving me alone in the chambers to wait. Just like the first day entering the palace. Only pity was I'd grown accustomed to comfort. Now with jewelry piled on my head, wearing strange clothes made me extremely uncomfortable. Thinking what appearance hadn't Damien seen? I voluntarily removed all of Sophie's hard work, wearing only a single robe, then sat on the bed waiting for Damien. Waited a while then fell asleep. When I woke, Damien was lying right beside me, using his fingertip to flick my eyelashes. Seeing me open my eyes he curved his lips. "This is how you seduce me." I hadn't fully woken yet. Seduce what? Whatever seduction was thrown behind my head. Now I only knew to roll into his embrace by habit, wanting to conveniently hug his firm waist. But my hand had just touched his clothes when he pushed it away, voice slightly cold. "I already said tonight I won't accept anyone. Why does the Empress knowingly go against me?" I blinked, finally fully awake, looking at him flatteringly. "No, Your Majesty, I can't sleep alone." "Is that so?" He sat up, moving further from me. When I arrived, the Empress was sleeping very soundly. Didn't look like tossing and turning, unable to sleep. I thought, but didn't dare show it on my face, only trying to appear weaker, starting to make eyes at him. Your Majesty, truly, the long lonely night, can't you keep Yayo company? Damien's expression immediately became ugly. Nuff, don't say more. I also followed suit to return to normal, saying, you see, I really can't do it. Probably don't have that ability. Using beauty to seduce, I've never done such things in my whole life. Doing it for the first time, surely looks awful. I deliberately made Damien feel disgusted. Damien was so angry he laughed, picking up one of the things I'd removed earlier, raising an eyebrow at me. Yayo, if you want to show sincerity, wear this for me to see. That was what Sophie declared as the ultimate secret weapon, a translucent gauze dress. I hesitated a moment, deciding to comply, taking that dress, then slowly changing clothes right in front of Damien. Damien's gaze on me grew deeper. Finally he decisively pulled me over. Yayo, if I must go to hell, can I drag you along? Damien, I want to live, he smiled, then sealed my lips. So, why did you ask me then? One wild night. The next day when I woke, I finally remembered to request an official position for third brother. It was all Damien's fault for making me completely forget about it. He'd just finished morning court, facing my resentful expression, showing he understood clearly. Saying third brothers matter. I'll have people arrange it properly. He originally had talent, heart, and great wisdom. I won't let talent be wasted. Damien gave third brother an official position managing territory belonging to Ashford. At first it also helped ease the regret in his heart. But the important thing was this decree had been issued days ago. In other words, whether I seduced or not, the result would be the same. Damien once again wore a smile that made one want to hit him. That gauze dress last night really suited Yayo. I'll order the Imperial Clothing Bureau to make several more like it. All delivered to your palace. I just showed an expression of, as long as you're happy. Damien asked how I wanted to handle Victor and his children. Surely you already know all those past events, so now the decision is in your hands. I remembered another matter. You've known those things for a long time. He nodded. When young I once met your mother. Afterward she disappeared. I also once investigated news, but the specific situation and details weren't investigated by my secret guards until a few years ago. Finishing, he asked if I hated that person. Not mentioning specifically, but both he and I knew who he meant. You had me meet him so I'd know those things, wanting me to hate him. Damien paused slightly, then gently stroked my nape. Yayo, I know your nature dislikes fighting, but those who should be hated, you still must hate. Still remember the emotions that day in the Imperial prison. That's hatred, even more intense than love, even more charming than love. It can support you going very far. I gripped Damien's sleeve, weakly saying, but I don't want to hate. Hatred is too tiring. Besides, I don't plan to go anywhere far because I'm too lazy to walk. Just like that day when he showed me the fan made from Beauty's bones, telling me if afraid I could immediately run back to Ashford. At that time I answered, too tired, too lazy to run. Surviving was already very difficult. If I still had to spend energy hating someone, it would truly be too tiring. The darkness in Damien's eyes had already dissipated, replaced by a full, meaningful smile and a bit of helplessness. You sooner or later you'll die from laziness. I nodded. Not impossible. Sophie beside us had to sigh. Finally Victor was sentenced to immediate execution. Damien decided to speak for me. If I didn't dare kill, then let him kill for me. Those siblings of mine were all exiled to the borderlands. Only third brother prepared to take office in Ashford County. Before departing, he lingered at every step, extremely reluctant to leave. If life has any difficulties, definitely write to me. I found it funny. It's not like we'll never meet again in this lifetime. Why are you being like this? He seemed to have glanced briefly at Damien, then smiled at me. Forget it. If I don't actively come find you with your personality, probably 800 years later you still wouldn't bother visiting me. Well, you're right about that. Finally Damien had to speak up before I could pull my soul that had flown who knows where back. Yayo, wind's picking up. Let's go back. After everything was settled, only some rumors remained, saying Liang Kingdom's fall that year was truly regrettable. The lying siblings really had hard fates. These were just normal discussions, nothing major. But somehow outside rumors arose that the current emperor wasn't of Thorn's royal bloodline, but just someone impersonating a replacement. Damien never told me about these matters. I had to hear from Sophie and Genevieve to know. They said back then Thorn and Leon Kingdom had roughly equal power. Thorn once sent a prince to Leon Kingdom. That person was named Damien. Some rumored that prince was actually harmed by Leon Kingdom long ago, died unjustly. The current Damien was just a nameless substitute. At the same time, someone jumped out recounting Damien's past, saying he wasn't some benevolent ruler but a cruel tyrant who killed like cutting grass. Liang descendants were nearly exterminated. In his early years ruling, Damien also used many iron-fisted methods, costing who knows how many innocent lives. Additionally, families of beauties once sent to the palace crawled out from who knows where, all crying and recounting how innocent their daughters were. How pitiful, yet died unclear deaths in the palace. In just a short time, the people's hearts wavered. I heard these past few days at morning court, quite a few officials memorialized, either secretly or openly doubting the purity of Damien's bloodline, saying they only wished loyalty to the Thorn family, absolutely couldn't let anyone mix fake with real, mix inferior wood with precious. Damien didn't respond at all, just continued showing favor to Lydia. At night he climbed through my window. I felt he'd lost a lot of weight. So when he kissed me, I gently said, "Sleep early. You should rest more." His hand creating chaos at my waist paused. In the darkness, his eyes seemed to brighten. Worried about me. I acted as if not understanding the smile in his words. Afraid you'll suddenly drop dead. I'd lose support. He pinched my waist. Hurtless. I said nothing, just nuzzled into his chest. After a long while he finally said, "Yayo, in a few days come autumn hunting with me, alright?" On the surface asking for agreement, but actually just informing me, I had no right to refuse. Genevieve made excuse of wanting to care for Mio Mio and Ragdoll, not wanting to come along. But the day before I departed, she reminded me to pay attention to safety. Beware of whom? Of course beware of Lydia. You're also going on this autumn hunt. Since Ashford surrendered, I'd found Lydia somewhat annoying. She no longer urged me to join her side like before. I was happy she didn't come near me anymore. Just that during this autumn hunt, we two could hardly avoid encountering each other. At first I worried as Empress I'd be overly heartbroken. Now meeting again, seeing your complexion quite good, she laughed melodiously but made me uncomfortable. So I answered perfunctorily, I eat well, sleep soundly every day, naturally my complexion is good. Is that so? She smiled, then suddenly showed a melancholy expression. I heard the borderlands are both cold and harsh. Wonder if your siblings are eating well, sleeping soundly. I yawned. Consort Shu is tired. If you're so worried about my siblings, why not choose a day to personally go to the borderlands to check? Lydia's face paled, glaring at me with contempt, then said nothing more. I knew she looked down on me, and didn't expect her to understand me. I heard Liang descendants had very close relationships, deep feelings. Her feeling indignant for her clansmen was normal. I didn't have such kind clansmen, naturally didn't have the ability to endure hardships like her. Already different paths, incompatible. Damien noticed I didn't want to talk with Lydia, so suggested taking me hunting together. But I was very lazy about moving. I can't ride horses. He didn't seem surprised at all. I'll let you ride with me. Or you can stay here with noble consort Shu waiting for me to return. I quickly said, I'll go with you. The hunting area was a forest of deep green and bright yellow interwoven. Occasionally fallen leaves flew down, with rustling sounds of horse hooves moving. If not for Damien's kisses falling on my nape, this definitely would have been unforgettable scenery. I leaned back slightly, helplessly saying, Damien, didn't you come here to hunt? 2 deer just ran past. He laughed unhurriedly. Then immediately pulled the reins, letting the horse walk slowly through the forest, as if waiting for something. After a long while, probably having entered deep into the forest, suddenly an arrow flew from who knows where, startling the horse into galloping. Wind howled by my ears, with countless arrows tearing through air flying from all directions. Most were blocked by secret guards, only a few flew here but were also dodged by Damien. With one hand he pulled the reins, the other hugged my waist. Even at this point he could still smile. Scared. I pressed close to his chest, not knowing at this moment whether what pounded like drums was my heart or his. I heard my own voice ask, will we die? Damien laughed softly, chest vibrating. Yao, you won't die. Right, I wouldn't die, because those arrows shot toward us all pierced into him. When the horse fell from arrows, Damien held me rolling several times on the ground before stopping. Only then did I discover the abnormality. Behind us no soldiers pursued, but ahead was deep unfathomable forest. As if in this vast world only two people remained, me and Damien. Damien had already lost consciousness. Seemed the arrows in his back were also broken by him, leaving only short pieces embedded in flesh. Because he wore black, I couldn't see clearly how much blood flowed. I also took a while to realize among the grass scent was mixed thick blood smell. He said, "Yayo, you won't die," because he'd blocked all arrows for me. Or should say, all these originally targeted him. Foolish me wiped clean his messy face, then struggled to drag him to a relatively hidden place, letting him lean against a tree. Really too fortunate, when young my mother once taught me about wilderness herbs. I relied on those vague memories to find some bloods with blood, stopping effects, then gritted teeth pulling arrows from his back, applying the chewed herbs there, then tore cloth strips to bandage him. After this series of actions, I was covered in sweat. Half because he was too heavy, I had to use lots of strength to move him. The other half because my heart kept pounding anxiously. My hands trembled slightly while bandaging. Finally exhausted, I leaned against Damien and fell asleep. I dreamed a strange dream. The last scene in the dream was Damien smiling tragically at me, yet saying nothing. When I woke it was already dark. Damien was still unconscious. After sunset, forest air was both cold and damp. I touched Damien. There was already a thin layer of cold sweat. My heart immediately sank. No other choice but to hold him face to face, simultaneously using his outer robe to wrap us both. The purpose was to transfer some warmth to him. Surroundings grew darker. Occasionally sharp bird cries when returning to nests, rustling sounds when some animal passed through bushes. I felt somewhat sleepy again but didn't dare sleep. I could only mutter continuously by Damien's ear, saying all sorts of random things. Ragdoll is growing bigger, also getting naughtier. Everyone says it's ugly but I think it's quite beautiful. How to say, has a strange beauty. You once told me you like egg soup, was that deceiving me? I also made egg soup for Genevieve. She said it was just extremely ordinary egg soup. I think it's all because you let those two deer run away. Otherwise we wouldn't be hungry like this now. Now it's pitch black. My night vision isn't good either. Where can I find food for you? If we were in the countryside that'd be good. At least I could still secretly steal some vegetables and eggs for you. But this forest is both big and hard to traverse. If we starve to death later, you can't blame me. When will you wake up? Before you always woke me. Now it's my turn to wake you. Give me some face, won't you? I babbled on for a while. Finally heard Damien's hoarse voice. I didn't know you talked so much. So noisy it's giving me a headache. I happily pressed close to his forehead. After confirming he had no fever, I said annoyed, you were shot by arrows in the back. If it hurts, it should be back pain. He let out a suppressed laugh. Why didn't you run away? I looked at him showing incomprehension. Was your head also shot by arrows? He just smiled. I know before you were forced to follow me. Perhaps now I'm no longer emperor, can't force you anymore. If you want to run, now is the best opportunity. Oh, what are you doing? I bit his mouth, feeling really speechless. Want to see how hard your mouth really is. Elena. I stood up, cutting him off. Talking so much is useless. Better observe surroundings. Think of a way to escape here. His night vision was very good, the only one to rely on in this situation. Damien still hadn't moved, just staring at me. I hated this look of his, as if he wished I'd already abandoned him. You think you're so amazing. Whatever you want me to do, I must do. Things Elena truly doesn't want to do, no one can force. You understand? Besides, even if I wanted to leave, I'd have to go back to the palace first to get some things, plus bring Ragdoll along. You think if I abandon you now, I can live peacefully afterward? Damien, is your head having problems? Not saying anything to me, voluntarily arranging everything, then pretending to generously say you're willing to let me go. Though I'm very useless, I'm not resigned to being casually arranged by others like this. I don't need to know what chess game you're playing, who you're playing against. Before coming out, I already promised Genevieve and Sophie I'd bring back 2 rabbits for them to play with. You feel you owe me a lot, don't you? Then repay me according to my wishes. First, get me out of this damned forest. Then catch 2 rabbits for me and take me back. I said it all in one breath but still felt not relieved enough, so changed topics. Or do you love Lydia now and want to find an excuse to let me go? Damien, this fickle man. Emotions surging, Damien suddenly stood up, firmly hugging me, conveniently blocking my nagging mouth. In the forest only remained soft rustling sounds and the sound of two breaths entwining together. After a long while, he sighed. I was afraid you'd really leave. This little mouth, why does it talk so much? I was still angry, turning my head away, not wanting to pay attention to him, but he turned me back. Sorry, I won't drive you away anymore. He spoke gently. So I also won't let you say things like wanting to leave me. I never said that before. You imagined it yourself. He was silent for a moment. Seems that's true. What are you thinking in that head all day? Damien shamelessly came closer, rubbing his nose tip against my face. So you've never said you'd leave me? Why don't I know? I'm not stupid. You always run to Lydia's place. Why would I say such cheap empty words? He smiled extremely cheerfully. Jealous. I didn't want to answer, so changed to another topic. Doesn't your shoulder wound hurt? Only now did he seem to remember, exaggeratedly gasping. Hurts. I looked suspiciously. Really hurts that much? He nodded. I laughed. He serves you right. After joking around, Damien relied on his excellent vision and memory to lead me out of the forest. We conveniently met the search party looking for us. Thanks to candlelight, I discovered his complexion had turned frighteningly pale, looking extremely weak. Probably his earlier calmness was all pretense. I immediately reddened my eyes, so anxious I almost carried the accompanying imperial physicians over. But Damien gently patted my hand as if to reassure. It's fine. I already promised you I'd live very long. That was words from who knows which lifetime ago. I'd almost forgotten. I rubbed my eyes, just saying. Then you can't go back on your word. You still owe me rabbits. His pale lips curved into a smile. Then he told others, take the Empress outside to rest. I myself was truly haggard, couldn't endure anymore. Hearing this I didn't resist, obediently going outside to eat, wash my face, then catch up on sleep. When I woke it was already the next morning. The guard said the imperial physician had examined, besides the shoulder wound, other injuries weren't concerning. Currently Damien was resting. I didn't want to disturb him, just stood at the tent entrance, asking the guard if they'd caught who did it. Damien once told me about the emotion called hatred at the imperial prison that day. Now I'd felt it once more. Perhaps Damien had already issued orders, so the guard didn't hide anything from me. Reporting, it was noble concert shoes people. The lying siblings, one assassinated Damien in the hunting grounds, the other stayed in the city mobilizing troops, preparing to usurp the throne. But perhaps Damien had already anticipated everything, so the assassination failed, the usurpation also failed. Last night right after Damien met trouble, both were captured. To the point I had to wonder if the wound on Damien's shoulder was also part of his plan. Carrying this thought, when I personally fed him medicine, I asked him about it. He didn't seem surprised at all, just calmly nodded. Right, the bitter meat trick. I couldn't understand. Why? Want to know if you love me? His hand slowly climbed to my neck. Based on my experience, this was his way of showing desire for control. I just felt stupid. If I didn't love you, would I be willing to sleep with you? Damien pondered. With your personality. I felt annoyed being hit on the mark. Damien continued leisurely speaking. Still remember what I taught you before. That thing called hatred. You said it was too painful, so now I'll teach you something else. Yao, your expression toward me last night, that thing is called love. I saw the stubbornness and madness in his eyes, suddenly understanding something. If last night I decided to abandon you and leave alone, would I have died? Damien tacitly admitted. Still remember the fan made from beauty's bones I once showed you? Though I've never killed anyone in front of you before, actually I'm not a good person. In corners you don't know, I've taken countless lives. So I think even if it's someone in my heart I could still kill them. My true face is like this, Elena. After thinking for a long while, I sighed. Then you're really twisted. Damien, he twitched his mouth corner. Besides that, you have no other thoughts. I nodded. Hurry and get better. You still owe me 2 rabbits. Damien said nothing, just stared at me until I got goosebumps. Finally I had to steel myself to kiss his mouth corner, then wrinkled my face. So bitter. He suddenly laughed, grabbing my nape for a deep kiss. Only afterward did he smile, saying, "This way you can taste the medicine's bitterness." I glared at him. Rog. After Damien's wounds healed more than half, our group returned to the palace, conveniently bringing back 2 rabbits. Genevieve and I looked at each other. Then she said, "Let's have braised rabbit tonight." I just felt it quite miraculous. Previous matters were all investigated clearly. This assassination and Lydia shielding Damien at the previous palace banquet were all planned by Lucas's people. During that time, Lucas also secretly recruited soldiers and horses, plotting wrongly, forming cliques, plus a series of other crimes. In short, this pair of siblings lost all reputation overnight, thrown into prison together. The night before execution, Lydia requested to see me. My laziness flared up, but Damien insisted on taking me there. Lydia still held her chest high, back straight, face completely lacking any trace of former gentleness. "How dare you come too?" she asked resentfully of Damien. Damien hugged me lazily saying, "Didn't you want to tell her my story? Then I, as the person involved, why can't I be present?" I didn't like this riddle-like dialogue, so spoke up. "If you have something to say it quickly. Otherwise I'm leaving. I already have plans to eat braised pork and braised rabbit with Genevieve tonight." Lydia showed an expression of, "How pathetic," then said to me, "Do you know what kind of person this man beside you is?" I answered immediately, "A pervert." Then was immediately pinch-bites by Damien. I pushed him away. "Go outside. I want to talk privately with her." Damien, Lydia and I sat facing each other. Lydia propped her chin saying, "All right, what do you want to say to me?" "What to say? Just some old stories from years past." Damien truly isn't that prince, but a young eunuch who attended the prince. As for why Lydia was so certain of this, because Lion Kingdom people were the ones who killed that prince. Who could have expected that young eunuch would impersonate him, becoming Damien? I stroked my face, not very trusting. "You're sure he's a eunuch, not a guard or something?" "Of course, why do you ask that?" I stroked my chin. "Well, from what I know, Damien isn't a eunuch." Lydia was immediately stunned. After a long while she laughed bitterly. "No wonder. I thought because he was a eunuch, that fragrance had no effect on him. So that's how it is, that's how it is." She hesitated slightly, then asked me, "He killed your father. How can you still stay by his side?" I didn't want to explain too much, just said, "Different trees, different flowers, different families, different scenes. You shouldn't use your own thinking to impose on me. If you only wanted to tell me about Damien's identity, I feel we've said enough." I was about to stand and leave when Lydia called me back. "Don't you feel someone like that is terrifying? That's your bedside person, but his thoughts are so deep." I nodded in agreement. "Indeed, very terrifying. Then why don't you leave him?" I calmly replied, "Because I'm too lazy to run away." That night was a rare time. Damien only held me to sleep without doing anything else. He told me he actually was also a thorn prince, but born to a palace maid, completely unfavored. That year only that prince treated him well, so he disguised himself and followed that person to Lion Kingdom. Unexpectedly encountered such misfortune. To take revenge he had no choice but to impersonate him, then brought Thorn to new heights, annexing Lion Kingdom. I couldn't help sighing, truly an inspiring story. "Damien," he nuzzled into my neck. "You have nothing else to say?" "Oh, there is? Only now did I remember something. Genevieve wants me to beg you to release her from the palace." Turns out Damien kept her just to keep me company from boredom. Now he'd handled Thorn's matters. Genevieve also felt the palace too boring, wanted to leave. "That's a small matter." Damien kissed my neck. "Anything else you want to say?" I pondered briefly. "Time to sleep." Damien was so angry he bit me. I laughed. All right, one more sentence. That is, why can't Alina leave this pervert Damien?" At that moment, Damien's breathing seemed to stop. I reached out to hug him back, whispering in his ear, "Because she's already understood what love is. Hatred is too tiring. Loving you is still easier." The end. Thank you for listening to Panda Tale Channel's story. Wishing you all a wonderful day. Remember to like and subscribe to receive notifications when new videos are released.